I'm so to be here with you today. We are going to have a super fun discussion, and it is based on what I hear from people all the time, which is Heather, we know why God created sex. It's for us to make babies, to repopulate the earth, to make more Christian soldiers. And I'm like, okay, yes. God did create sex for us to repopulate the earth, but that's only one. That's only one reason. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you 6 reasons as to why God gave us the gift of sex. So, if you are ready to hear all the reasons, and again, it's not just for procreation, in the chat, let me know, yes, I want to hear all 6 reasons why God gave us the gift of physical intimacy. Also, I would love to know where you're tuning in from. I see so many of my friends. Hi, it's so good to see you. I'm so excited that you're here. So, in the chat, let me know what city and state that you are tuning in from. As you know, I'm in Santa Barbara, California, and it is gorgeous today. It is gorgeous. I wish I could turn my desktop so you can see the palm trees and the beautiful sky. And I'm smelling the salt air. Like, it is beautiful. It is so gorgeous outside today. So in the chat, let me know where you're tuning in from. And I'm so excited. So let's get going. Okay. So we're talking about the 6 reasons behind why God gave us the gift of sex. Now, yes, he did give us the gift of sex to procreate. All right. So, yes, first and foremost, physical intimacy is a way in which couples can come together to create life. It's a powerful and miraculous process that brings new life into the world. It is a testament of how, as Christian couples, we can expand God's creation. He gives us the opportunity to expand his creation. In Genesis 1:28, he talks about us being fruitful and multiplying, right? So that is the main, not the main, but that is what a lot of Christian couples think is the main reason behind God creating sex. And while that is definitely one of the reasons, it's not the only reason. And I don't even think it's the main reason, because there's more verses in the Bible on pleasure, which we're going to get into here in a second, more on pleasure and enjoying physical intimacy with our partners than there is on creating life. I only found one verse, Genesis 1:28, where God talks about being fruitful and multiplying. But in other sections of the Bible where God does talk about physical intimacy, it's more on the pleasure aspect. And so I think that a lot of times when we get married, we have this thought process or inner belief that it doesn't matter if we receive pleasure or not, as long as we're making babies and we're helping God to replenish and expand the earth and make more babies and all that, then we're doing a good job. We're being a good wife. But that's not the only reason. So I really want to help you, especially as a Christian wife, to debunk this thought process that your main mission as a woman, the only, reason why you're here on this earth is to help repopulate the earth. That's not your sole purpose as a woman, as a wife. I really need you to hear this, because so much of the work that I do and have done in the last 10 years with married men and women is helping the female to debunk this idea, this programming that she's heard in the church and she's heard from her mom and grandparents or wherever it came from, that makes her feel like her only reason and purpose is to make babies. It's beautiful. I have 3 kids. I've been pregnant 5 times, lost 2 babies. I got 3 live babies, got grandkids now. It's a beautiful process. but that's not your only reason as to why you're here. Okay. So I really need you to understand this. All right. So the second reason behind why God gave us the gift of sex is for intimate oneness. So physical intimacy also fosters intimate oneness between spouses. It is an amazing opportunity to connect so deeply on both physical, emotional, and spiritual levels. It really helps to strengthen the marital bond. So I believe that's why in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, God talks about how a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. So it's this coming together of all levels of our body, our mind, our spirit, our emotions, everything. It's coming together and we're clinging. It's intimate oneness, coming together, taking two people and coming together as one. That's so deep, you guys, because so many marriages that I see and friends that I have where they don't have God as the center of their marriage, they don't have a lot of times this intimate oneness. It's a mindset of I'm me, you're you, and we're staying separate. And we're coming in with this is my expectation of marriage. This is my expectation of marriage. We're never coming together as one. And I feel like that's why there's a lot of dissension and divorce with couples outside of the Christian faith because they don't have God as the center and they're not aligning everything together and coming together as one with God at the center. So I love it. Like to me, it's an actual feeling. So when I'm coming together with my husband, I feel this intimate oneness. It's not just a physical act, my husband and I coming together. Yes, there's pleasure and there's the whole thing, but because we are Christians and we have God at the center of our relationship, the actual feeling and experience of the physical intimacy, it attaches us and brings us together on this cellular soul level that I can't even describe to people outside of the Christian faith. I try and like verbalize how it is, but it's so hard to put it into words. It's like you have to actually feel it for yourself. You have to experience what this intimate oneness is when you have Christ as the center. Like in the comments, let me know if you agree or understand, because to me, this is like one of the best feelings and one of the most intense ways of receiving pleasure, the climax part that I've ever experienced, having intimacy, physical intimacy with other partners outside of marriage. And then when I've had other partners that did not share my faith, like it just takes the level of pleasure up. And the oneness feeling that you have is unlike anything else that I have ever ever experienced before. So I hope that you're tapping into this intimate oneness. All right, so the third reason why God created sex is for us to have knowledge of each other. So through physical intimacy, couples can gain a very profound knowledge of each other's bodies. So we're getting to know each other's bodies, what turns each other on. We are getting to know each other's desires. So what types of things do you want to experience in the bedroom, husband? And then the husband's like, what do you want to experience in the bedroom, wife? What needs do we have to make us feel comfortable in the bedroom, to make us feel confident, to bring about the climax. So this knowledge promotes understanding of each other, and it gives us a safe feeling of being able to communicate what our needs are. So in Genesis chapter 4, verse 1, I believe this is the perfect example because Adam came in and it says Adam knew, Knew, knew his wife Eve. And if you go back and you do a word study on the word knew, Knew, you will see that God is talking about the sexual part of knowing each other, okay, which to me is just, it is so incredible. It just opens up so many doors for us to be ourselves, which I absolutely love about marriage and about the potential that you could bring in to your bedroom situation. It just, I mean, it just intensifies and makes everything better. And there's no more guilt or shame or judgment or fear of worrying that we're not going to be accepted by our spouse, because we're both bringing this openness of getting to know each other in this way, our bodies, our desires, and our needs. Okay, so that's the third reason why God created sex. In the comments, let me know if you're enjoying this so far. Again, the reason why I put this together today is because in the last 10 years of working with couples, the number one thing that I hear from mostly the wife, but I also hear it from the guy too, is God created sex for procreation. The pastor says, go and multiply. Even in some of the vows, when we're standing before our family and friends and God, a lot of the vows that men and women have written into the vows is we will procreate. Like, they've talked about it in their vows. I'm like, oh my God, what about the pleasure part? What about getting to know each other's bodies and making sure that we're experiencing as much pleasure as possible with each other? Like, what about that? Why can't you put that, write that into the vow, you know? So anyway, I just really want you guys, especially you as Christian wives, to understand that you are not just put on this planet to make babies. There's so much more to physical intimacy than you've probably been told your entire life. So that's my job. That's the gift that God has put in me, is to help to debunk a lot of these thought processes and beliefs that were put on us that are false. They are false belief. It is a false, like if you're walking around with a belief that I'm only here to make babies as a Christian wife, like that is a false belief that was put on you. And I want you to know that you have it within you to uproot that belief, because that is not from God, that is from humans. Okay. And you are inviting yourself to be open to other reasons why God created physical intimacy. Yes, one of the reasons is to procreate, but I found 6, so I'm talking about them today. All right. Okay. So the fourth reason why God created sex is for dun 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 pleasure. My favorite one. So God created physical intimacy for pleasure. Yay! It's a amazing gift meant to be enjoyed within the boundaries of a very loving, committed marriage. It's intended to bring joy and satisfaction to not just the man, okay, but to both partners. So, yes, as females, we are very giving. We love to focus on the pleasure of our men. And a lot of us think, well, as long as he gets off, then I did my job and my pleasure doesn't matter. Okay, that's false. Your pleasure matters so freaking much. Like, Okay. Don't keep taking your pleasure off of the table. It's important for, yes, for us to serve our men, but it's also important for our men to serve us. Okay. We need to mutually have pleasure, giving, receiving, giving, receive. Like we need to get so good as females at not only giving, but also receiving. Okay. In the comments, how well do you receive? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, I am the best receiver. I will just lay back and let my partner do whatever he wants to me. And I'm going to allow him to bring in as many climaxes as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like however much that we decide. It's like, oh, I think I could do another one. Oh my God, here's another one. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at receiving? Okay. There's a verse in Proverbs. I think it's chapter 5. So anyone can correct me, whether you're on the live or on the replay. I think it's verse 18 through 19. It says, let your manhood be a blessing to your wife. So, I mean, doesn't that say to you as a Christian wife, oh, okay, if there's a verse and all the verses in the Bible are intentional by God, right? If you believe in the Bible and you believe that the word of God is the ultimate truth, and there's a verse that actually says, let your manhood be a blessing to your wife, doesn't that tell you as a Christian wife, like, oh my God. So that means that, yes, while I love to be a giver, I can also be a receiver, and God created my husband's manhood, which you guys know what that means, right? The D, okay? His D. I can't say it on here. I'll get in trouble. So his manhood, y'all know what that means, right? Okay, lots of different words for it. That means that his D is created to be a blessing to you, which a blessing is, what is blessing? What does a blessing mean to you? Okay, the word blessing to me is like it's satisfying. It feels good. It is complete. God ordained it. Okay, these are all the things that I think of when I think of the word blessing. So if I'm opening myself up to God's fourth reason for creating sex, which is pleasure, then that means, whoa, like I can open myself up to just lay back, or I want to be on top, I don't know, side, whatever position. And while he's in me, I can tap into the pleasure that I'm experiencing while he's in me, or while his hands in me, or fingers, or whatever. Okay. So I hope that you guys are loving this. All right. So I got two more. Reason number 5 why God created sex is because sex can also serve as a way to guard yourself against temptation of sleeping with other people. Okay. So sex provides such an amazing, fulfilling, and exclusive outlet for our natural human desires, right? It also helps couples to remain faithful to each other. So, the more times that you're having sex, the more times that you're coming together, the less you're going to want someone else, right? Okay. Now, you guys know that my husband and I were sexless for 12 years out of our 22. So, do you think that during those 12 years of having no sex with my husband, that I was tempted to go outside my marriage? In the comments, you tell me. Do you think 12 years having no sex with my husband, do you think that it was hard for me to say no when other people were hitting on me and they were saying things like, wow, you're so hot and your husband must want you all the time. And little did they know that I literally was over here like sexually deprived. Both of us knowing the scripture, 1 Corinthians 7, it's either verse 2 or 5, where God talks about stop depriving each other of sex unless you have agreed to not have sex, and it has to be a short amount of time for fasting and praying so that our enemy doesn't come along and tempt. Okay, so my husband and I are both believers. We know that verse. He knows that verse. My husband knows that verse. Do you not think that I also would bring up that verse? Like, dude, you're disobeying God by not coming together with me. Did I bring up that verse during those 12 years? Yes. Did that help my husband to want to have more sex with me or less? Less, because I was using the verse to put pressure on my husband and to make him feel bad about the fact that he was not coming together with me as often as I wanted. Okay. We do now, even though verses are here for us, okay, we really do need to get to a place in our spiritual walk with God where we're not using verses against each other as a way to manipulate each other into doing things that we want. Okay. Which is what I was trying to do. And that was not a productive way for me to receive more sex. Okay. So even though the verse says this, I had to get to a place in my own walk with God where I was like, all right, it says this, we both know it. So I'm just going to rely and trust that you're going to do this work on Chuck himself. And I'm not going to put pressure. I'm going to stop nagging him because that was definitely pushing him further away from me. And I was going to trust that God was going to bring the sex back in the timing that he had, which he did. Okay. Now, there was a time in our marriage where it had gone on so long without us having sex that my husband did become more open-minded to allowing me to go outside of our relationship to get the sex that I needed and then to come back to still like have the marriage and to have the love relationship with my husband. So in my book, Why Doesn't My Husband Want Me? There's a whole chapter around our open relationship, our open sex relationship. If you've not read that yet, I wish I brought it with me. I don't think I have a copy here. It's on Amazon. Why Doesn't My Husband Want Me? And you can get that on Kindle or paperback. There's a whole section about me going outside of the marriage and my experiences and what I learned, and then when I decided to cut that off and to come back. So there's like a whole story about that. I don't have time to go into that today, so you guys can go and read that if you want to. But I will tell you that the more sex that Chuck and I have, the less that I'm thinking about other people, the less that I'm craving outside sex. So I know that this is factual for both men and women. So if you're a female and you're the one that doesn't want sex as often as your husband, you do have to get to this real, raw, vulnerable place within yourself to understand that if you're not giving it to him, you can't blame him for his eyes turning. Okay. Yes, our husbands and even me, women, we are responsible for our own actions, but there's a process to temptation, being tempted, and then acting on it. So we can only, as Christian wives and Christian men, we can only be tempted so long before giving in. Okay, that's how it happens. I've been walking with God since I grew up in the Christian faith and went to church and all the youth groups and everything, but I committed my life probably around age 19 or 20. Never in my time, my walk with God, have I ever gotten to this place of not being tempted and being able to go so long before I then open myself up. Okay, yes, I'm giving into that thing. There's a process of temptation. It's like first you notice it with your eyes, and then you start to think on it more, and then you start to have this lusting stuff, right? That happens where you start to imagine actually being with the other person. You start to fantasize the whole thing, right? You might even be touching yourself while you're fantasizing, like the whole thing, right? Before you then act on it. So there's like a process of it. So that's how it was for us. That's how it is for men that aren't getting sex from their wives. It's very innocent flirtation at first before they then open themselves up to actually doing it. So that's why I'm saying, like, both of us, husbands, wives, we have to take full responsibility for the part that we play in our spouse being tempted and then eventually going outside. So it's really, really, really important that you guys are coming together as often as you can, because this is God's gift to you to keep temptation and cheating, like the whole thing. And then, as you guys know, cheating leads to divorce. That's like one of the main things that leads to divorce, especially within the Christian faith. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to make sure that you're doing what you can as a Christian wife to ready yourself and open yourself up to as much sex as you can to protect your husband from going out. Same thing for your husband. Like, he can't be saying no to you as a wife if you're the one that's wanting sex. Okay, so it goes both ways. So that's the fifth reason. All right, so the last reason I have for you guys today, the sixth reason why God created sex, is for comfort. Okay. Oh my God. I love this one. And this might not even be something that you've ever thought about before, but physical intimacy can offer comfort during difficult times. So it can be an amazing way for couples to support each other emotionally and provide reassurance when needed. So if we think now back to scripture in Second Samuel, do you guys remember that story where David comforted Bathsheba and he went in and he laid with her? Okay. So this is an amazing way for us to provide comfort to one another. I still remember, I can tap right back in just like it was yesterday when Chuck and I went through two miscarriages, and I was at my most depressed, dark. Like, I felt darkness. I actually started to feel um, the pull of depression, where it felt dark and very oppressive. Like it was just this weighing down energy. I can't describe it. You have to feel it. If you've ever felt it, you know what I'm talking about. During this time, I had a very hard time getting out of bed. I didn't want to eat. My kids would come in and say good morning and want to lay next to me and hug me and stuff, and I would push them away. I didn't want any contact with anybody. I was just in this, I think in Psalms, I can't remember who wrote this Psalms, but one of the writers of Psalms talks about this pit of despair. That is the only way I could describe how dark that was for me. It had gotten to that place. So my amazing husband, during the time when I was going through this, I also understood that he was going through loss as well. Because as you guys know, if you've ever had a miscarriage, it's not just you as a female that is going through it. Your male partner is also going through the loss. So that's a whole lesson in itself. We need to remember both of you guys have felt the loss. Okay. So during that time, my husband was so sweet. And so he would lay next to me and he would caress me. He would tickle me. He would play with my hair. He would give me real gentle kisses. And he did offer himself sexually as a way for us to heal. At first, I wasn't open to it, but after a couple of months, I did open myself up to it. And I cannot begin to tell you how healing that was for me. It was one of the steps within my healing that God used to help to pull me out of that pit of despair, because I realized as my husband was comforting me in this way that I still had, even though I had death 2 times with those baby losses, there was still life around me that I could tap into that would help to draw me back to the living again, that would help me to get out of bed, that would remind me that I still have 2 amazing kids to live for, an amazing husband that was there to live for. And that God, I knew in the future, would bless me with another baby, which he did, which is our baby Joshua, who is 18. Okay. So those are the 6 reasons why God created sex. Very scriptural, but also something that is not taught to us as often as I think it should be taught. So physical intimacy, again, it serves so much, so many different purposes, all designed by God to strengthen the connection between you and your spouse, that will serve to bring you guys closer. So I hope that these insights have helped you. I hope that they will show you how to appreciate the importance of the sexual aspect of your relationship. Okay. And listen, if you're interested in improving your sex life, I highly recommend that you jump into my program, Sexify Her, which focuses on strengthening the sexual bonds between married couples. Okay. My program consists of 20 separate classes that I used to charge $97 per 2-hour class. You guys probably remember that because I've offered these classes. I've talked about them here on my social platforms. Classes like how to boost body and sexual confidence, how to spice up the bedroom, how to have more intense pleasure and climaxes, how to improve oral sex, how to, God, I have so many classes I've taught separately over the years, how to overcome a sexless marriage. All of those used to be $97 each. A lot of you have paid that. A lot of you have attended those live and virtual classes over, the 10 years that I've been a sex coach. So what I did is through Sexify Her, I combined all of those 20 different classes. Okay. So all those classes I just mentioned, plus you have 15 more classes. So there's a total of 20 classes within Sexify Her that is just $333. So you literally save, gosh, okay, horrible at math. I think it's like $1,607 or something. So you get 20 classes for only $333. Like, what? That is just freaking crazy to me. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. You guys can start improving your sex life today by tapping on that, going to that, purchasing it, and then you can start taking the classes in whatever order that you want to take them in to improve your sex life. Okay. So I hope that you take advantage of that, and I will see you guys in there. It's so much fun. Tons of ladies are in the program, and you'll have a lot of support. You can ask questions and all the stuff. It's really amazing. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you found this live helpful, please like it, please share it, especially if you want more content like this. And remember, a strong and loving marriage is a beautiful testament to God's design. And I really wish you all the best in your marriage journey together. And I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll talk to you guys later. All right. Bye.